All right, welcome to the 5 a.m. grind. Horace, what's up, man?
Not much. What's up with you?
It's good. Yeah, busy time for me. I don't know.
Yeah,
Summertime's busy, you know.
a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you
one of
coping
those-
with it?
Coping with it, yeah.
How do you cope with like a lot of work on your desk and the weather outside is perfect?
That is tough. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going
And
to
where
lie.
you're just like, you know what? Like, screw this. Like, I just want to go outside.
Yeah. I find the longer days in the summer, I don't know. I tend to work longer in the summer than the winter months. It's weird. Just because the sunlight is still out?
Oh, I'm the opposite, man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, I'll stop at 5.
In the
and
summer?
Yeah. And then I'll go out and I'd
Try to
wanna
enjoy
just,
the weather?
Yeah. Like, even if I'm sitting in my backyard, I just... In the winter, I'm like, man, it's like freaking night already. Whatever.
I just keep going.
Yeah, then it's
That's
just a
funny.
feel. There's a different feeling.
I don't know, man. I feel like, excuse me, the weather really affects your productivity from time to time.
Yeah.
I would say, I don't know, because they do say, you know, like daylight savings, for example, on the East Coast, West Coast, whatever, across the country. People lose so much in productivity because, I don't know, because daylight is earlier, people tend to stop. I mean, nighttime is earlier during the winters, but people tend to stop working earlier.
No, I can see that.
There's
People
like
do
this
get
massive
depressed
loss.
and all that stuff, and I see that. But for me, I guess it's different. I feel like more cocooned, right? So I'm
Okay,
like,
so
it's
you're
fine,
just like, I'll just
right?
keep going.
Yeah.
Different attitude.
It's like it's a different it's like, oh, there's no distractions. Where, dude, like as soon as like it's like April, May, June, you're slowly getting back to the weather that's like nice, warm. I feel like June in like grade school.
Yeah.
You're just looking outside. You're like, man, I want to be out there. You're waiting for lunch break. You're waiting for school to end so that you could just be running around outside.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my mindset.
Cool. All right. So this week's topic, I thought we'd cover one of these other current topic issues type of things, and that is we're coming out of COVID-19. People are getting vaccinated, and there's been this whole thing about misinformation and fake news around vaccination. So I thought we'd cover the topic of the internet and misinformation.
Oh, that's
Seems to be quite relevant.
Yeah.
So I wanted to cover the following questions. Number one, just defining what fake news and misinformation is. Number two, why does misinformation spread so easily on the internet and social media? 3, why is misinformation so dangerous? 4, why are people so easily attracted to misinformation? And 5, what does this mean for society in the future? So just fake news and misinformation. Quick definition here. What is it? Right? To me, really, fake news is something that's not really substantiated.
yeah.
Something that's completely like fake. You look into it and it's like completely wrong.
It's a lie.
It's a lie.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Lie.
that's misinformation. Why does it spread so easily today with the internet and social media? Why do you think that is?
I don't know if it spreads easily.
Yeah.
I would say, like, you really have to look at like socioeconomics behind this. Like, if you have, for example, a class of individuals who have a lot of money, they can be backing their own voices or people who reflect their own voices.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's more money behind that, automatically that's the loudest voice on the internet,
Right.
right? So, but social media has changed that. And like one of the biggest things, I don't know if we're jumping into this right away,
Yeah.
is we're gonna do it. Why is misinformation dangerous?
Why
But
is
I mean, okay, hold on.
Why does it spread so easily?
So the spreading of again, it's because there's just more money behind it. One example that it came to my mind was the recent like Palestinian and Israeli thing, and I know this is like kind of a touchy topic, right? There's like the Palestinians don't have a lot of, I guess, financing or anything like that, not nearly as much,
They don't have anything.
and they don't have anything versus like Israel, right?
Like, I'm not sure how some of
Yeah.
the terrorist groups are backed. I don't know. I don't know.
No, I don't know either. I mean, I don't know. Like, that's the other thing. The terrorist groups, you could frame anything as a terrorist group. I'm not saying something is right or wrong here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, like, you could, like, you know what? Like, if I have $1 billion
Mm-hmm.
and you're, I can label your accounting firm a terrorist group, and then if there's enough ads up there, people will be like, oh, that's a terrorist group, right? I'm not saying right or wrong, right? I'm not, like, substantiating anything, but I'm kind of giving people something to think about more than anything else. But then... And so you have like people within the Israeli backing. And I feel like pro-Israel is not just like pro-Jewish. There's a lot of Jewish people behind, for example, the Palestinian cause too. They just didn't have that much money again, so their voice was down too, right? It's not anti-Semitic, it's not anti-Jewish or anything like that. It's just like you want them to have their own rights. I felt like when you have a group that has a lot of money, and it plays out a lot in that, and there's several different other areas, right? Where when a group has a lot of money, that voice just becomes louder. And so that is misinformation because you're not getting the other side. You're not getting what the other side is thinking, what they're doing, what their perspective is. You're getting their side from the perspective of their opponent, which is not like the best place to get that information, right? And so for that kind of stuff, like it's backing of money that pushes that and gets that message everywhere. It's not necessarily always like, hey, you and I like share information, and then the fake information kind of spreads everywhere.
Yeah.
I think it's just a lot of it is just like a lot of content, a lot of it's produced by, and it's not just this, anything, right? Is produced by people with the biggest or deepest pockets.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my answer to the whole why does misinformation spread so easily on social media is, I think when the guys invented Facebook, Zuckerberg invented Facebook, Twitter, etc., all the platforms, this spread of misinformation was one of the most unintended consequences that they couldn't have imagined when they built these platforms. Maybe they could, I don't know. But these platforms are really designed to make content go viral, right? And it doesn't matter what the content is, they're just meant to like hyper accelerate whatever the hell it is.
In the beginning, though.
Yeah.
In the beginning, organic content could spread.
Go viral.
Yeah. Now, it could, but mostly you're looking at paid content, right? And it's more like you could have paid content that goes viral in that within Facebook, you could put up a post and you can boost it, and then you could take the money off of it, and then once you've boosted it and enough people have got it, then it might go a little more viral than it would have. You've already spent so much money behind it. Yeah. Right? So a lot of it is paid. I don't think right now we're looking at Facebook where Facebook is like, hey, the most people like this content. Even then I would argue like, yeah, the more sensational stuff got blown up. Yeah. But like now it's more paid content. If you look at like how Trump had won in 2016, there's a pretty interesting documentary on Netflix where it's like they targeted people who were on the fence. They created all these fake accounts on Facebook, and they targeted them to have a certain world outlook, to have a certain outlook of terrorist groups and them taking over and immigration and all these policies until they were pushed to vote a certain way. Yeah. Yeah. So it was a very paid kind of mindset.
You think there's money behind it? Is that
definitely, because Facebook was in the same room as Cambridge Analytica as they were trying to like figure out how to profile and change or persuade people to vote a certain way.
Yeah. Interesting. I think it really, like, why does it spread so easily? It boils down to two things. Number one, it's how the platforms and the algorithms work on these platforms. It's meant to make content go viral. And you're right. Could be a combination of paid and unpaid, whatever, but that's what it's supposed to do. That's what the platforms sort of reward and encourage. Number two, it's the way the internet was designed to democratize information so that everybody can have access to information. Everybody can do their research. Everybody can come up with facts that are coming from the internet. It used to be that the internet, you got your facts from the internet, and there used to be one source of truth. Now it seems like everybody that's doing the search on the internet comes up with multiple sources of truth, and everybody has their own facts. So I think the internet was meant to be like the source of truth, the source of information. Yeah. But now it's become this cesspool of like good information, bad information, everything, right? So sometimes people, and I've noticed this even with the older generation, they go, oh, vaccine information. This is pro-vaccine. Oh, vaccine's good for you, blah, 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 for this reason. Then they come up with that one post that says the vaccine has these following risks. They're like, oh, I'm going to look at this because there are risks to this vaccine, and I'm going to tell everybody in my family, right? And then that's what goes like, and it spreads. Because I don't know what it is. Human beings, I guess, they like to hear issues that are sensationalized and know about the risks. And they're like, But did you know that, there are these risks with this issue?
Yeah.
And we tend to focus on the negatives for whatever reason it is. So I'd say it really boils down to two things. Number one, the way content spreads on social media. And number three, we thought the internet was going to make everybody smarter, but that's not the case anymore. It's not necessarily. Sorry?
It's made everyone dumber. No, because there was a time, here's the thing though. There's a time where like, if you did not know something,
you went to the internet and you found out.
I mean, like, if you go back to our parents, before the internet, before our parent, like when our parents' time, if you didn't know something, you relied on an expert, and that's it. You did not go try to figure out and make your own opinion about it.
Yes,
This person spent their lives figuring things out, and that's it. Now everybody feels entitled to an opinion after they read one article.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and you don't really know where that information's coming from.
I read 2 articles, so I must be an expert at this.
Yeah. So that's one thing. The other thing is, what's his name? I think it's Nassim Talib.
Yeah.
He said in one of his books, if you have like a story that says like so and so murdered this person at this time with a knife.
Yeah.
People are not going to remember it as much as woman finds her husband cheating on her and like cuts him like to death like 30 different ways and then runs outside screaming. You know what I mean? Because if it's a narrative and it's a story, it's more sensational.
Yes.
Right?
That's supposed to just facts. Yeah.
So the truth is always boring. Truth is always boring, and if you can sensationalize it, But the other thing, dude, like one of the things that I guess I don't necessarily agree with is that, like, my opinion is not that the internet democratizes any kind of knowledge. Because if you look at capitalism, isn't that supposed to, like, let everyone, like, have a fair chance? I don't think it does, because once you have, there's, like, positive feedback loops, right? Once you make enough money, now you can put yourself in a position so you're always winning, and then you can rewrite the rules through government so that you're always winning.
Oh, hold on. You just gave me a really good idea for our next podcast. But we'll talk about this exact topic because I really want to talk about it.
So it's the same thing with like the internet, right? Like here's the thing. If I have an agenda, like, and people are naive, I think most people are naive to the fact where if I have an agenda, it is in my interest not only to set up something that advocates my position, right? But also people who appear to be advocating the other side.
Yeah.
All right. And so if you have that and that, you're like, oh my God, well, like, I guess everything, like, people mistake the illusion of like more voices as really more voices or perspectives. It's not always the case. If you look at like climate change, I mean, there's no doubt there's climate change. Yes. Right. But yet people on the internet, right, there's still so much information saying that maybe they're like, oh, no, this is all a hoax and nothing's going on, right? Because it's like all this, there's money like going into universities sponsoring this stuff, right?
Yeah.
If you look at like the Koch brothers, they're spending money behind this in universities that are then legitimized like, oh, my God, this university said it, right? And now it's going on the internet and it's backed by or sourced by this other thing, which is like, what the heck? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. Like there's a lot of, I feel like people really need to, like it's not an unsophisticated mind cannot process this. And most people think they have a sophisticated mind.
Yeah.
So you really have to spend a lot of time digging through garbage, right, to get to that like gem, to really understand a topic.
And I think nowadays the approach even that I take when I research information is, you have to corroborate the information you get. You have to like verify twice, 3 times over to make sure whatever it is that you're researching is accurate. It's from trusted sources. To be honest, I don't even know you can trust a lot of sources anymore. I mean, the sad thing about misinformation and what it's done to society today is that, and I have a quote on this, and it says, misinformation destroys trust. And when you destroy trust, you destroy the bonds that hold society together, which is absolutely true. Yeah. Right. It's unfortunate, but it's like the reality we live in.
Misinformation nowadays, I feel, information in general nowadays is more marketing. It's how do you market a perspective? Yeah. If you look at like the presidential the races in the U.S., the people who won were also considered some of the best marketers in the country.
So true. So true. And everybody, even every business now, and you and I do it too, you know that pushing content is the way to attract people to your business, right? And when you're pushing content and you're a business, let's be honest, you have an agenda of some sort,
right? 100%.
I want you to come and use my services. You want the same, right? So it's hard to get that true trusted information sometimes without having without it having some sort of an agenda to it.
Yeah, at least having an understanding. All right, like even if this is true, this person wants me to come to this firm.
Yeah.
To work with them.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. I mean, I would argue that in the past times when you had newspapers and stuff like this, that was still the case. As a journalist and as a human being, you can never be completely unbiased about any issue. It's just that maybe the internet has hyper sensationalized that particular bias
but like
that people have.
People got dumber though, because like if you look at
You mean readers?
yeah, just society. Just people don't read anymore.
I'm
They don't
very
read
optimistic.
as much, right?
Yeah.
Like infographics are blowing up. Those 15-second freaking or 5-second
TikTok
Instagram
videos.
stuff. Yeah. I thought going to YouTube, like image-based society, is already like a down, like a society going down. Right?
Yeah.
So and I thought like YouTube, man, this content like you're watching for 5-10 minutes. It's a sign of a society that's like going like their culture is degrading. But then you have like stuff like Instagram that comes out and it's like 2 seconds. TikTok, man, it's like 3-second video. That's it. And you're done. You know what I mean? You got your 3 seconds of fame, you move on. It's not even 15 minutes of fame. But if you go back, like I feel like after World War II, because of like a lot of developments and the New World Order, there was a lot of changes. There was like the identity of the self that was formed and a lot of marketing and propaganda techniques that were kind of developed. But even like prior to that, when somebody advertised something, this is very simple. You advertise the features of a specific product. If I told somebody, if I went to them and I said, hey, listen, for your legal like work, I can do A, B, and C. These are the features. If that's something I open with, I feel like people look at me like I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
I have to get them excited first. Always. Because here's the thing. I'm not competing with other law firms. I'm competing with TikToks, man. I'm competing with dancing teeny boppers, right? To get these people's attention. Right?
I actually like that. You're competing for attention.
Yeah.
For attention is what it is. And time.
Yeah. So like in order to do that, now I have to be like, hey, listen, I got a law firm. Hey, you know what? If you want to buy or sell a house, it's gonna be amazing, right? And often enough, right, that is something, like, that's what I have to do.
That's so true, dude.
Now, I have features. If you want to ask me, I would love to tell you about, like, what I can give you, but people don't want to hear about that. You know what I mean? They want to be like, oh, my God, is this guy making me feel good? Do I have the feelies? You know what I mean? Like, it's... and if that's what they want, you got to feed it to them.
You got to feed it to them. I mean, that is kind of sad. We're becoming a society, that's really used to these 2 seconds, 3-second clips. Yeah. We don't have focus anymore. We can't focus on something anymore. Yeah. And it's so important when lies spread like this, misinformation, you kind of have to be able to sit down, do your own research, and be focused and spend the time. But we're losing focus.
I mean, it's not even just focus. We're losing focus, and then that is exponentialized by everyone thinking that they know.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I'm smart because I Googled. I read an article.
Yeah, there's so many
people.
Therefore,
I'm an expert at this.
I have a lot of clients who are telling me, like, oh, you could do this. I'm like, no, I can't. You could. I'm like, listen, no, I can't.
That is
right?
funny.
It's like, oh, I don't think you know what you're doing. I'm like, I think I know what I'm doing, right? It's like, yo, if you have to rely on an expert and know that they have enough experience, that like there might be a nuanced change, right? And especially like if I'm explaining, like, yo, listen, you go to law school, you do these things, right? And you'll learn a few things. Mm-hmm. So now you got to trust me. That's why you're paying me. If you could do it yourself, you could, you wouldn't have to pay me. But everybody feels like they're entitled to an opinion, and if they can't have an opinion, whether it's law or anything, right? They will go and try to grab an opinion because they feel almost society makes people feel less than if you don't have an opinion on something.
Yeah.
So you have to have something to talk about. You can't be quiet in a room.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
And that's very dangerous.
It is. And I feel like, hold on, we do have a lot of questions to cover on this, but I did want to cover this. Nowadays, especially even on Twitter and social media, it's almost like if you want to stand out in this like plethora of all the information you have, sometimes you need to take a bit of a risky, opinion or a position on something to be able to attract attention.
Yeah.
It's become like you need to sort of be hyper sensationalized or say something a little bit controversial, and then people will listen to it. Why do you think that is? Like, why are people attracted to shit like this now, where it's like controversial, risky stuff? People are attracted to all this type of stuff.
It was one step after another. Like
even Trump, the more stupid shit he said, people loved it.
Yeah.
Everybody picked it up.
Yep. Yep.
It's almost like he knew, let me tweet something stupid and people will listen to it.
And I'll be front of mind. He was a marketing man.
Yeah,
He would be front of mind, and people will be thinking about him. I mean, I feel like, and this is the other ignorance, right? Like a lot of Democrats or liberals would be like, "Oh my God, he's so stupid. How is he ever like elected president? How did he make this much money or whatever?" He is not a stupid man. He's a sharp man.
Clearly.
I don't agree with him.
Yes.
Right. But I'm never going to say he's stupid.
No.
Right? Because he knows what he's doing. He's got an audience. He's speaking to the audience, period. That's it. And if you don't like what's like coming out of his mouth, it's because it wasn't meant for you. Right?
Yeah.
It was meant for somebody else.
Yeah. And I don't think he's that stupid. I think he knows
He's
if
very
I
sharp.
say
He's a
all
sharp
this
man.
stupid shit,
Yeah,
I'll get
yeah.
the attention that I want.
He's a
Quite
very sharp
interesting.
dude.
So why do you think misinformation is so dangerous? And I'll go to the examples in terms of answering this question. We've seen misinformation spread in places like India and then Burma with like severe consequences. You know, there are a lot of these WhatsApp forwards that go around in some of these countries. And then that people like go ahead and there's this mob that forms and then go ahead and attack a minority group, whether it's like Muslims, could be another minority in their countries. And they absolutely attack them. And then there are deaths and severe consequences that the society is forced to face. It's absolutely crazy. So the implications could be like fatal. It could be death.
They're always fatal. I mean, if you want to look at like the Iraq War, where the intelligence community kind of spread that there was like moving vehicles that this dude was trying to like have WMDs. I'm not saying he was a good guy, but that's kind of like crazy. But they peddled it and it got big and you started a war. How many people died?
It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
How many people
like
died?
the Iraq War was started on something that wasn't completely verified.
Yeah. So it's like it's that, and it's that social media. It really has a huge effect on how you frame an issue and how it gets popular.
Absolutely true.
I think it was Secular Talk, or I don't know what it was. There's a podcast I was listening to. The commentator was like, so this is not original. He was like, you know what? Like people don't like. He was kind of trying to get people to think outside of what's kind of being fed to them when this media. When I think Israel had bombed I think it was a residential building. Yeah. And they said that, well, like there was a terrorist organization and they're using human shields.
Oh, wow.
And so he's like, so they said they bombed it. He's like, well, and there's people who were agreeing with it, people who weren't agreeing with Israel's decision. That's not the point. But he was like, listen, like, what if like a group of gunmen, right, take over your kid's school? And the government's just like, we don't have proof that they're taking. We don't know. We think they have. Let me just bomb the entire school. Would that be something that's acceptable? Would it be acceptable or not? It wouldn't be. In no way would that ever be acceptable, right? But it's like that media, the way it presents it and the way it catches fire, because it's like so sensational. Like, oh my God, we're going up against this thing, and we have to like defend ourselves or whatever it is. That completely manipulates or changes people's perspective, and it costs a lot of innocent lives. Yeah. Whether there was terrorist groups there or not, at the end of the day, there's a lot more innocent lives that just are people who died.
They're forced to pay the price. Yeah. Absolutely crazy. Nuts. The other thing I'll say about misinformation, why it's so dangerous as well, is that now with the internet, Twitter, etc., you get information much quicker, right? Like something happens, there's a developing story happening. Let's say there was like a terrorist attack. People are immediately giving you information about what's happening. Like it's almost real time. Yeah. And I think sometimes what happens is you have to realize that stories that happen in the media, when something with severe consequences is happening, it's a developing story. So as opposed to like, coming up with what your judgment is, oh, this attack at a mall must be a terrorist, right? I would just ask to like sometimes just reserve judgment until an investigation has been done, an autopsy has been performed, etc. Authorities are there, and then like the official like statement is being made by the authorities, as opposed to people going, "It's this, therefore it must be this."
Yeah, I mean the other thing is exactly. So, for example, and not only like the developing story, I would say you have to place it in context. Sometimes, and they're like kind of cherry picked, like mass shootings that happen in the U.S. It's a really good example. Right away, they're like, "Oh, this terrorist group, that group." I mean, and how many terrorist attacks do we hear about in a year? Right? Maybe one. Dude, there's hundreds of terrorist, not terrorists, like
Of
mass
shootings,
shootings,
mass shootings.
mass shootings every year in the United States.
There are.
Every year, hundreds, right? They pass 1,000. I don't know what the number is exactly, but there's hundreds.
I think there's a stat in the U.S. More people in the U.S. die of like just gun violence than terrorism. Yet people think terrorism is the biggest problem.
Well, I mean, there's more people who die.
Yeah.
This is no joke, okay?
Yeah.
As a result of low tire pressure than terrorism.
Yeah.
So there should be a war on tire pressure.
Yeah, we're not trying to diminish terrorism. I'm not saying it's any less.
It's
but
about perspective.
Perspective, exactly, of what's really causing deaths in your country.
Anybody like, and I said this as a joke, but you should there should be we should be against terrorism
for sure,
and we should be against tire pressure too, because that's a huge issue. That's something like a no-brainer. Like that's a very easy thing to solve.
It is an easy thing to solve.
A very easy thing to solve. And like if you're losing lives off of a tire not having enough pressure, that's something that should easily be mitigated. But it's not sensational enough. You know what I mean? That could be boring. Overnight, dude. This is not something that we have to spend thousands of dollars or anything. You just have to bring awareness to people that your tire your car as a result of low pressure, air pressure, could cause a death. So, yeah, I mean, those are the things that, like, it's awareness. It's about bringing context, but unfortunately, it's that sensational.
People sensationalize, because again, it's what people are easily attracted to. It's what really goes viral on social media. It's kind of nuts. And even now, like you do this, we do this with our podcast. Everybody does it on YouTube. A lot of the big papers do this too. You got to have these sensational titles, right? For your news articles, because you want people to click on them. Yeah. Because that's how you get paid. People click on the news article, right? Sometimes I've seen it. There's a title and the article is something completely different. You're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. There's like a one-liner right in the middle. That
I was like, I thought this was going to be about this. Is like, come on, this is a letdown. It's funny. It's like the way society has become is kind of sad. I guess in the last minutes here, what do you think this means about society's future? What does this mean about our future? Just misinformation and stuff like this. Do you think the problem gets worse?
I think I see things turning around a little bit. I think that like in the beginning when you have like, for example, it takes time for a society to start understanding what's going on so that they can develop a response. It's just like any kind of virus or anything. Right? It takes time to create a response, whether it's artificial or natural, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So I do feel like nowadays, and I've seen this with my mom a lot, right, where it's like, whereas before it was easier for her to believe stuff that was being spread around.
Now she's a lot more second guessing, questioning.
It's like, okay, what's going on? Is this right? Let me Google this.
Let me ask.
Let me read. Yeah. So there's a lot of other things that like. It's just people are more slowly becoming more aware and trying to understand more so that they can have a good perspective. So I'm optimistic. I have to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm optimistic too, just in society and on people, but I think the problem will get worse. Like there is a lot of technology now working on deep fakes. Yeah. So that is, like you and I, for example, talking on this podcast, somebody could literally imitate my mouth opening and closing and talking about a completely different issue that I don't even have never talked about or wouldn't be aligned with.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I think eventually the problem will get worse with deep fakes, with AI, etc. People being able to manipulate images and video to be able to be like, oh, look, this person said this. And it's a completely doctored video, completely fake.
It's kind of like sound bites.
Exactly.
Similar to sound bites. Exactly. I think people didn't realize sound bites.
I think, So then I don't know. We'll need a way to be able to authenticate people. And I don't know what that's going to look like. I think people are going to be, they're going to have to be a lot more discerning about the information they get and be able to double check, go to the source and be like, did you say this? Is this really you? I don't know. It seems like it's going to get a bit more challenging, this whole misinformation issue. But I hope society is able to come up with some sort of a solution and a solve for it.
Yeah, I mean, it is. The marketing men have to be one step ahead of everybody else just to convince everyone to buy their stuff. But I feel like a lot of that misinformation, whether it's buy their stuff or buy their ideas, and I feel like at least we're beginning to catch up to some extent.
Yeah, for sure.
Figure out a way.
Last minute takeaways. I don't know. For me, I'm hopeful that society figures this out, but it's definitely an issue that you just need to be aware of and cognizant of, and just be discerning with all the information you get.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, guys, we'll leave it there.
Take
we'll
care.
see you on the next episode.